Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Set for the tone for the discussion. Let's listen to this background report by Timothy Yusuf.
The National Livestock Development Accelerated Strategy in Nigeria aims to transform the livestock sector, promoting economic growth, job creation, and export earnings. Key aspects of the strategy include animal health and zoonosis control, feed and fodder development, water resources management, statistics and information systems, and breed improvement initiatives. Findings show that the economic projections of the strategy is projected to build a $74 billion livestock sector by 2035, creating jobs, wealth, and export opportunities. The findings further reveal that the strategy will be implemented through a collaborative effort between states, the private sector, and foreign investors, with the Federal Ministry of Livestock Development providing regulatory oversight. Overall, the strategy aims to end perennial farmer-herder clashes, promote modern livestock production, increase exports, and generate revenue. Recall that the National Economic Council, chaired by Vice President Kashim Shettima, has approved the strategy, emphasizing the need for courageous decision-making and collective action to drive economic growth and development. Stay on for details on National Livestock Development Accelerated Strategy on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you so much, Timothy Yusuf, for that background report. Now our guests are seated in the studio. Let me introduce first in the studio is E.D. Mukhtar Maiha. He's the Minister of Livestock Development. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria.
Also joining us here is Dr. Kingsley Uzoma, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Agribusiness and Productivity Enhancement. Dr. Uzoma, good to see you again.
Good morning. Good morning, Nigeria, and thank you for having me again.
All right. Thank you for coming. Let's just start off.
Where are those going to come on a daily basis? And that means that you need 182,500 bulls or pigs every day. That will get everybody employed. And by the time you process, you are talking about cold chain storage, cold chain transportation, and packaging. This is what we are looking at. So it's not look about emotions. It's about the reality that, look, multidimensional prosperity has now come.
All right.
Let us get up, wise up, and
accept it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a moment. Just a moment, please. We want to just inform our viewers that they can also participate in this discussion, which is National Livestock Development Accelerated Strategy, by sending us text messages on our phone or WhatsApp messages on number 0816652 08169520649. So the number is displayed on your screen. So if you have any suggestion or questions, please just send text messages or WhatsApp messages. Thank you very much. Okay.
Just to add to the emotional...
We're just coming to you, actually.
No, before you come to me, before I lose a train of thought on that. With respect to the emotional angle that the Honorable Minister has just stated, the grazing reserves you are talking about, where you want to do this investment in the cattle subsector, are located in the northern Nigeria, and all the state governors in the states where you have those grazing reserves, they are all interested. And let me also shock you. The grazing reserves are there. The lands are empty, occupied by whoever wants to be there. So the land does not belong to anybody again.
Okay.
Take was a grazing reserve, 100,000 hectares. There is no body that owns the land except the government of Plateau State. Kenam Grazing Reserve, 28,000 hectares, owned by government of Plateau State, because the settlement had been done in the colonial time when the reserve, just like the university, Ahmadu Bello University does not belong to Zaria people again. It belongs to the CEO of that land belongs to Kaduna State government. So Kaduna State government can will out, do whatever it wants. So because when it came up, people did not look at the facts. People, took the bandwagon effect, the sentiment, emotions. No grazing reserve. Even in the northern Nigeria, there is no grazing reserve in Kano State.
Even in Borno?
In Borno, you have many.
Yeah.
In Adamawa, you have many. I just use Kano as an example. There is no grazing reserve in Kano, but every other northern Nigerian state has grazing reserve. And also to shock you, the least in terms of hectareage in the whole of northern Nigeria is in Benue State. We have 3.6 million hectares. Less than 1% is in Benue. So the rest of them are in northern Nigeria in states that are receptive to the idea.
Okay, states that are receptive.
That is where the grazing reserves, that is just to buttress what Honorable Minister has stated as just emotion-driven, campaign, because it's not based on facts. Nobody is coming to take your land. All the grazing reserves he talked about are in northern Nigerian states. You have Awe here, 27,000. You have Kurudu. You have in Abuja, you have 3.
What about the other parts of Nigeria?
Oh, that is what I'm trying to say. When we say people are against that you are coming to take their land, government is not coming to take anybody's land. The lands are already, in fact, in terms of security contribution, it is better that government gets businesses back to these ungoverned ecosystem spaces so that there will be a form of structured governance and law and order. In Wase Grazing Reserve, it belongs to nobody. Government is not doing anything with it, so anybody can come in. But when you now bring in structured businesses are there, they will begin to identify who and who are there. And in terms of the registration of the cattle, the target, that will also help provide data so that the security agencies can now leverage to know. When somebody is not, if you have that 100,000 hectare developed, you have 200,000 cattle within that ecosystem, and they're all tagged. And you now see somebody maybe from outside Nigeria bringing in his cattle. You already know that this person can be a potential security risk, and government can do. So, do you prefer leaving those spaces empty? Nobody is there. Anybody can just come and they erect something, and then, can cause havoc. So, nobody is coming to take anybody's land. The lands are already there. They had already been allocated, gazetted, and as far as I'm talking to you, I can mention many. If you go to Gombe State, you have Owazangi, 147,000 hectares of land lying fallow. If you go to Mayobelewa in Adamawa, Gongoshi, opposite Sebore Farms, it's 20-something thousand hectares. You have some in Zamfara State, 300,000 hectares. What is happening? Because nobody is doing anything there, so criminals can actually take over the space. The end point of what I'm trying to say is that nobody is coming to take anybody's land. A University of Abuja has more than 5,000 hectares. So if the Vice Chancellor, and that space majority, if the Vice Chancellor decide now to say, okay, I'm going to establish 1 million beds capacity poultry within that land, is he taking somebody's land?
No.
If the Vice Chancellor decides to say, I want to develop housing estate for hostels for students, I want to use 100 hectares to develop hostels that will take 50,000 students, is the Vice Chancellor coming to take somebody's land? So if the land in Awe Grazing Reserve, 28,000 hectares, if Governor Esule now decide to say, I will build a meat processing plant there, is he coming to take somebody's land? If he decides to say, I will build...
Yeah, because this land have been abandoned for so long.
No, it is still not, nobody still... Look, I will tell you something. We went to Awe. We met people that are doing... There is one man, he retired from the Ministry of his forestry department there. He had just appointed himself the controller of the land. He still, because Awe is a village, he was in Lafia, so people believe he has access to government. So if you want to farm, or if you want to rear your animal, you just come and pay him money. You are not paying to the Emir of Awe. You are not paying to the local government chairman. You are not paying, his name is Afro. That's what they call him. So you come and pay money to Afro. Afro now will give you, do this thing. So that land is not administered by anybody.
Okay. So from your perspective now, what changes or improvements are needed so that, to enhance and strengthen the strategy?
You see what the strategy, the very excellent strategy by the Honorable Minister, the Ministry, I've read part of it. They have 3 pillars: productivity boosting, market access and ecosystem building, and cross-cutting support. So if productivity boosting, feed and fodder, one of we asked the agro-pastoralists who had decided to come and settle there. There's 2 problems, they said. Rua, which is water, Chiawa, which is grass. So that is the primary cause of the farmer header crisis.
Okay.
So we have this land. We have, and almost all the grazing reserves, they have head dams. And it's not being utilized. So the ministry is coming with this very robust, laudable plan, strategy, to come and say, let's revitalize this ecosystem. Let's encourage people to enter into pasture production. The head dams in Awe is 22. It was designed by engineers. They calculated the carrying capacity of that ecosystem and what is the water requirement for that carrying capacity, number of heads. And they designed an head dam that can support all year round animal grazing and feed and fodder production, leveraging the water from the dam. But what has happened? Over the years, more than 40 years, abandoned, it's been completely silted. You can stand on top of it, but this was a very deep that can swallow a 1-story building when it was designed. Okay. So if you come and then desilt it, you have enough water. If you come and then put, demonstration plots, how to grow pasture, I will give you a statistics. Okay. If you have super napier grass under irrigation, you can get as much as 300 tons per year.
350. So
that 350 can actually support between 45 to 50 cow. The average size of our cow currently is around 250 kg. So the cow can eat maximum around 3% of its body weight, which is like 7.5. So if you divide 7.5 kg times it by 365, now divided by 350,000, you will see you have more than 40-something cows you can support. So, and then that 1 hectare can also give you planting material. If you want it to just for propagation of planting material, can also give you planting material for 100 hectares. So what does it mean? If you put 100 hectares in 1 year, you can get planting material, you can use it as a source of planting material for 10,000 hectares. If you put 500 hectares, you can planting material for 50,000 hectares. And you have, when you desilt the dam, so that 100,000 hectares, if you are using 80,000 hectares at just very conservative estimate of 2020, you have 1.6 million hectares of cattle. The resident there will have enough water and will have all year round supply of grasses. Then once you have 1.6 million heads of cattle, or even 200,000 heads of cattle at a place, you see veterinary clinics will come in. You see people that supply feed and fodder, fattening. Milk companies will come in, because some of them, they will all not be bulls. You have the dairy cows, lactating cows. They will come in, get the milk, and move it out of the district. Feed companies, fish feed companies will come, because for each cow that is slaughtered, you extract, because it will not just be 200,000 or 1 million heads of cattle by just the random way, with very dirty way that we are doing it currently in the country. So you have abattoir. They will drain the blood. The feed companies will come. Fish feed companies will come, or even aquaculture, fish producing companies that will just leverage it directly to do that. Then schools will set up, because by the time these people begin to make money, some of them will prefer to send their children to private schools. Is it not job? Is it not growing the economy? If you look at that NLDAS strategy, In 2035, we're expecting $24 billion in revenue and around $2.4 billion in taxes to the federal government and state. What is $2.4 billion at the current exchange rate? You're looking close to 4 trillion naira. That would have just been there, coupled with the social engineering that, social prosperity that the Honorable Minister talked about. The money would have used in combating insecurity and all the vices that comes with joblessness. You have a whole lot of people that are you don't know where they're from. They're there because it's an empty land. It belongs to government, but government is not using it to do anything.
Okay.
So we drive productivity, feed and fodder, irrigation, market access. Market access, when you cluster them together, there is an incentive for investors to come and leverage the access to raw material there. And then other cross-cutting issues, the social cohesion they are talking about, the peace building, education. Currently, people living within that ecosystem are not going to school, are not doing anything. But once they begin to have prosperity, they send their children to school. Some will become doctors, some will become engineers, and they will still trace their roots back.
And we have millions of veterinary doctors just hanging there.
Okay, now we have some responses from our viewers.
From contaminated meat.
Yes. So we have another.
Can I address the person that talked about the grazing reserves in the southwest? 97.3% of all the grazing reserves are in the north. You have the only two states in the south, in Ogun and Oyo. Oyo is 8,500. Ogun is 52,100. And in the north, the only state that does not have is Kano. And the state that has the least is Benue, 32,500. So when you put this entire, is 93,000 out of 3.6 million hectares. So it's around 2.5, 2.6%. So 97 point something percent are in the core northern states that are very much receptive of the idea of ranching. And they are the ones bearing the brunt of the clashes, farmer-header.
Okay, let's take some of these questions so that Dr. Uzoma can respond to some of them. I said, good morning to you all. Thank you for this conversation. My take is this: I want to believe that this land to be used should only be for livestock, not for people resettlement. This from Akiola. Then this one says, the high cost, this Nandom Uyep from Jos, said the high cost of livestock feed in Nigeria stems from various factors, including fluctuating feed supplies, rising ingredient prices, and inefficiencies in production and distribution. These issues impact the profitability of livestock producers, particularly in intensive sectors like poultry. What are some potential solutions to the problem? Thank you for your service and God bless Nigeria. And this one said, Honorable Minister, sir, okay, good morning to you all in the studio, and a special way to the Honorable Minister. The Honorable Minister, sir, what are your plans to ensure that you help solve insecurity in Nigeria by ensuring that animal grazing is done like developed countries? In Inusa Victor, Anthony Mary from Port Harcourt. Maybe we'll just pause here so that you can respond to some of these questions.
I will start with the last one.
All right.
What are the measures? That is the NLDAS, the ministry have just unveiled. If it's fully implemented, and that's why the minister had been going around the country trying to get this stakeholder buy-in, major gatekeepers buy-in. If it's fully implemented, you will not have, they say seeing is believing. Yeah. The header is a business person. His business is that his cow, that is his office. So if you know that trekking, like the average distance within 3 years is 250 kg, where the global average is in 2 years 600 kg. So if you can show him a way where he can double the weight of his bull in 2 years without moving, he'll make more money. The same thing with milk. The 1 liter is, even now that rains are falling, during the peak of the dry season, they may not even produce anything. And this part of what they sell. And because they sell them in the bushes, so it's just, they're getting peanuts. If you look at, I will use the Sebore farm in Gongoshi area, in the Admiral you got to see here. They implemented something like that. Most of the people that roam the animals, they don't roam it again because they have a milk collection system within that ecosystem, that every morning their cows come, they milk them, somebody comes, they weigh the milk that was given to them, and at the end of the month they are paid something. So they are not sending their children to school. Again, back to the insecurity you talked about. Actually, the cause of the insecurity is that we have not been using these grazing reserves. We have 3.6 million hectares of farmland. If we have a conservative stocking ratio of 5 per hectare, it's more than 15 million. So you can take up all the national cattle head. So, and when you now take it up, and people are, I will use away now. If you bring in 100 headers with their cattle there, and they have been tagged, registered, recorded, and then tomorrow they will see somebody, 5 other persons come, they will be the first one to report, because they don't know whether these ones have come to steal their cattle or have come to give them disease. Because when you put them in a place, you now begin to bring in sanitary measures, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, that people will not test. Do they have tuberculosis? Do they have zoonotic diseases? So when they see that their own cows have been vaccinated, they will not want somebody from who they don't know to come in with cows which they don't know whether they are vaccinated or not. Just like if you have a dog. If you see white dogs, you know they can have rabies. You don't want them to associate with your own dogs. Exactly what will happen. So they will be the ones to report the errant headers that have entered. They will call the local police. See, we've seen these people. Please come and help remove them and their cows. So you now have that institutional buy-in, the societal buy-in, the gatekeepers, the key gatekeepers within the society. And then the question on what are you doing on poultry, they are all working synergy. Poultry feed is maize and soybean. High productivity cow breeds also depend on soybean and maize. So if you are creating what is happening in Nigeria is economy of scale. The unit cost is very low. The average soybean farmer in Nigeria gets less than a ton. The same soybean farmer in Brazil gets 3.5 tons. So you don't expect the price to be the same thing, the unit cost. The same thing with maize, get less than 1 ton, but you can get 8 tons. But when you now bring in business, let people see this thing as an ecosystem of financial and economic value creation. People will now be concentration of capital, deployment of capital to get the necessary factors of production that are lacking, that are making the farmers not get the optimized yield. Because you need money, you need fertilizer, you need pesticides, you need irrigation. So how do you do that? Is what the Honorable Minister is doing through his ministry by doing the heavy lifting within that area. It will not only be grasses. You plant soybean, you plant maize. So the soybean farmer can sell to the cattle farmers or to the poultry farmers. Even the poultry may come to set it closer, because the logistic cost of moving the feed, the maize and the soybean to the where the poultry is located will be higher. So it will be short logistics for him to set up his poultry side by side with where you have the input, the raw material, the soybean, the maize. So and so the cattle farmer benefits, the maize farmer benefits, prosperity, spreading of prosperity across different socioeconomic levels in the country. And then when you talked about only headers, you have agro-pastoralists. So the headers that will stay there will not eat grasses alone. They will also have to feed on other things. They will also have to have where their children can go to school. Because if their children are not living with them, you will still go back to square one. They will have to leave to go and see their wives, to go and see their children. So you have to develop an ecosystem, and it is not peculiar to Nigeria. Every other place where it has worked, you see them living in a community. So this is a community-based, grassroots-based approach to the, recatalyzation and reconfiguration of the entire livestock ecosystem. And you cannot work in disaggregation. None of them is disaggregated from each other. They all work in synergy. They use the same feed. They have the same markets, the same cold chain. So if you have a big concentration of 500,000 heads of cattle within a place, you have an abattoir. You have a cold chain facility. So would you prefer to develop your own cold chain facility alone rather than to leverage already existing where you have economy of scale? So if you're a poultry with 200,000 beds capacity, and their target market is in Abuja, Betty, in Jos, for instance. You want where there is cold room, so that when you slaughter, you leverage the same cold room infrastructure there to send it out. Also, this farming of maize and soybean, they all require irrigation. So if we develop the irrigation system within these reserves, I believe close by, the maize farmers, the soybean farmers will prefer to be there because they will also leverage the irrigation infrastructure that have been developed. Like you talked about bringing the rural electrification. If they put the distributed solar power system, you know, there, the major cost of irrigation is diesel. People can now say, oh, we have this electricity, renewable energy that is there. Why not me come and drill a borehole close that I will tap the current from that REA solar farm to power my irrigation system,
Dr.
to power my poultry.
Because of time, let me just pause you there so that by state government, then I think it is in the right direction, since I will also have a space to raise my piggery there. This from Ranta in Jos. Good morning, Nigerians. Thank you for this subject. It's very educating, and I'm very much interested. My question to Honorable Minister is, is there any incentives for individual smallholder headers who intend to start livestock business in Nigeria? If yes, where can one get such information or support? That's Udo from Uyo. Then this one says, good morning, Nigeria. I have confidence that this new ministry is well equipped in regards to the versatile knowledge of the minister. I pray that there will be no interference in what the ministry has packaged for Nigerians. Felix Adua from Jos. Then this one says, thank you, the NTA crew and the guests. The strategy document is well prepared and implementable. More education and enlightenment to Nigerians and pastoralists to buy into the new livestock business model. Ranching is the only way for livestock development in Nigeria. That's Dr. Yahaya Hussein from Abuja. You would like to respond to some of this?
Yeah, I have just
before?
one. I'm going to.
Yes.
Bonaya from Ebonyi State said he wants to thank the Honorable Minister. It's a wonderful way to develop Nigeria, especially in the area of livestock production, knowing its positive contribution to the economic growth of Nigeria. However, with all these initiatives deployed, if herders are not well sensitized, some of the challenges highlighted may still persist.
Okay, thank you. I think let me once again disabuse our mind. This is not about Ruga. Whatever Ruga means. I've explained Ruga is a Hausa word that was conveniently turned into rural grazing area. Number two, what we are doing today is beyond Ruga. There are designated grazing areas covered by law. This is where we are going to rehabilitate and get them into prosperous economic hubs. Anybody who wants to go into livestock keeping, you want to do pasture cultivation, commercial, you want to do ranching, you want to do goat, you want to do poultry, you want to do dairy processing, you want to do meat processing, you want to do leather works, those reserves are there for livestock businesses. So no question of Ruga again. That should be understood.
Okay. We
have gone beyond that. The livestock ministry is concerned about the entire value chain in the livestock sector, and that is what we are driving.
So what's your final word as we
my final word today?
Well, first, let's take from the SSA, then we'll now have yours.
Well, just to buttress further on the issue, you know, the grazing reserves is just like we have the word river basins. It's also government land, but it's just for irrigation agriculture. It's designated for irrigation agriculture. So the grazing reserves are there. Government is not taking anybody's land. This is no Ruga. Point blank.
Thank you. Honorable Minister.
Today, out of this neglect of the livestock sector, 64 years since independence, here comes a man in the name of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR, who has seen the volume and value in livestock and what it can contribute to Nigeria and bring peace, has created the Federal Ministry of Livestock Development. Today, it is championing the process of unlocking the value in that sector for every Nigerian who is interested in keeping livestock or any other business in the livestock sector. We are here today ready and prepared to work along with local and international investors to make sure that the livestock sector in Nigeria today has been turned from a liability into an asset for shared national prosperity.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. From liability to assets. Thank you so much, Honorable Mr. E.D. Mukhtar Maiha, Minister of Livestock Development. Thank you so much for your contribution this morning. And also want to thank very much Dr. Kingsley Uzoma, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Agribusiness and Productivity Enhancement. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
We also want to appreciate our viewers for your comments and responses and questions. Keep it coming. We appreciate your interactions on this program. My name is Ademola Adioye.
And I'm Juma Yusuf. Do have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for your time.